Welcome to Financial Strategies with Andrew Agemy in Connecticut and Daniel Agemy in Colorado.
So if you were in our Connecticut office recently, you would have had the opportunity to get a chocolate cigar from me because I recently had another grandbaby, a grandson, and his father was very happy to find out that it looks like he's going to be getting an account with $1,000 that the U.S. government is going to put into it. I'm Andrew Agemy.
And I'm Daniel Agemy, and you're listening to Financial Strategies. Today, we're talking about Trump accounts explained, free money and fine print. AAA, people have been talking about these Trump account, the myth, the legend. Nobody really knows what's going on because these things were announced quite some time ago, but I still haven't actually seen one. If you had a child born between January 1st of 2025 to December 31st of 2028, which for those who are paying attention, we haven't come up to yet, then the United States Treasury has said that they will give that child $1,000 and put it inside of one of these Trump accounts.
That's exactly right. And I want people listening today to understand how they can have that for their grandchild. I'm excited about getting this for my grandson, but it's not just limited to him. And so that's why I thought we should do this, because it's in the news. It's something going on out there. I mean, when has the government ever done anything like this before? I can't think. I mean, probably the closest to it was Social Security back in the 30s. It's the closest thing that comes to my mind that the government has actually footed money for. I'm not a big fan of the government giving money away, but they didn't ask me. So it's being done, so I'll take advantage of it. So I want to help you and our listening audience to help you be able to get this for your grandchild, assuming they're born somewhere between January 1st, 2025 and December 31st, 2028. And if you have a grandchild outside that, that's fine. They can still get these accounts. However, the money, the $1,000, they will not get the $1,000. They'll forfeit that, but they can still get the account with the benefits of the account. And we're going to go through that today. The good, bad, and the ugly, hopefully, on this stuff, and so that you can be able to see what these things look like. So,
there's not a lot of ugly on these accounts unless it's the name. Some people will just be. I'm really surprised. Like, this isn't all around except for the name, because some people they're like, well, if it's called a Trump account, it must be bad, right?
Right.
But the thought process here is, you give a brand new baby $1,000. They invest that into the American economy. And
right.
I mean, they've put out numbers, AAA. And if you just let that money sit until the kid was 27 years old in the U.S. stock market, using historical numbers. Now, we're not promising these. We know that numbers fool people, but using historical numbers, that's $15,000 by the time they're 27. That's not investing anything
15
else.
times, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you put, $250 per year in there.
Oh yeah.
It turns to $51,000. Like that's the magic by 27. That's the magic of compounding. Like, you think about how little money that is. Now, that's amazing for kids, and that's why I'm surprised people are not talking about this, because towards education, towards these things, that's huge. Some people might say $51,000 at age 27 is not a lot of money. They didn't put anything into it, basically. That's a down payment on a house.
Right. You got to remember what you put into the thing. That is zero. That's the government giving you $51,000 in 27 years, essentially.
And I mean, it's crazy, AAA. They talk about if you maxed it out at age 27, you'd have $742,000. Or if you maxed it out at age 55, again, these are hypothetical numbers. Past performance does not mean future performance, right?
Right.
They're saying with the initial $1,000 investment, and then if you max it out to $5,000 a year at age 55, you've got $13 million. Why are people not talking about these AAA?
It's brand new, and that's why we're talking about it. You've heard it here on Financial Strategies with Daniel Agemy. Today's topic is Trump accounts, free money, and fine print. And we're glad to be able to come to you today and bring to you this information that maybe you haven't heard elsewhere, but you're hearing it here today, and it will be helpful to you. Well, listen, we have some things we're always looking forward to. People don't know what people don't know, and we believe that Financial Strategies by Daniel Agemy is on the cutting edge of helping people to know what they don't know, especially when it comes to retirement and being retired and staying retired. Along with that, today we have a white paper to go along with today's show that we'd love to give you. And you might say, well, how does this go along with today's show? It's called Understanding and Maximizing Your Social Security Benefits. How does that have to go along with Trump accounts and free money, Andrew? Well, depending what you do with Social Security, you can get free money from Social Security. But depending what you do with Social Security, you can, if you do the right choices, there's over 500 ways of collecting Social Security. And if you maximize it, it could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to you in your lifetime. So we want to help educate you on those benefits for those people who are in or close to retirement and be able to help you be able to get some money for your grandchildren. So call, ask for by name, Social Security benefits, 800-725-7616 for your free copy. Call now, 800-725-7616. And you can also hit us on the web at agemy.com, agemy.com. Trump accounts, free money, and fine print. Daniel, that was astounding numbers that you were going down there with, not, just the $1,000 that the government puts into this account without contributing any more. By the time the kid is 18, it'd be about $6,000. By the time the kid is 27, it'd be $15,000. By the time that they're 55, it's $243,000. Now, granted, at that time, that $243,000 probably won't be worth a lot. But again, it's free money. Who wouldn't take free money? And
it's better than Social Security, AAA. I mean, like, you put your money in Social Security, right? And you basically just get it back with maybe a 1% return over that time. So, Social Security is guaranteed by the government. This is not guaranteed. That's the difference. But over that period of time, that is insane. And it's what we talk about all the time, the magic of compounding.
Well, the thing that's very interesting when you say that and compared to Social Security, Daniel, is the fact that Social Security can be compared to a pension. This could be compared to a 401k account. Remember what they did in the 70s and 80s? They did away with pensions and brought in 401k accounts for people. And people have a lot of money today because of that. And so for currently, at least, they're going to be kind of like the same thing where you can have, we have a lot of clients who have a pension and 401k, right? And maybe will be that kind of thing. I don't know. But, and I can imagine things happen in the future. But the point is, here's free money. So a child born today can get $1,000 in an account. Daniel, you said you haven't seen any of these accounts yet because it's not till 4th of July this year on the 250th anniversary of our nation that they're going to be available. Okay. They're going to come out. And that's what I want to help people understand. There's all kinds of things.
So you qualify January 1st, 2025. So if you had any baby born in 2025, they qualify, but you can't actually apply and get the $1,000 until July of 2026.
You can apply. As a matter of fact, let's talk about application for a minute, right? Because this deals with the best time to apply, from what my understanding is in doing my study, my due diligence on this, is when you file your taxes for 2025. So that's this tax season. You file taxes, and there's a form called 4547 that you can electronically file with your taxes. So that on 4th of July, boom, an account gets open for your kid.
With $1,000.
Right. Exactly.
AAA. Can we go back? I'm still dumbfounded. Can we go back? Because you said it's like a 401k, not Social Security. But Warren Buffett built his money off of that style of investing.
Right.
And why did Warren Buffett, people talk about all the time, he doesn't have the best returns. He's not the best in percentage returns, he's not close to the best of money managers.
Okay.
Why did he win? Why is he the wealthiest money manager of all time? Longevity. So could you imagine if he started at 0 instead of 18 or 20 or whatever he did, right? He's got the longest track record. He's in his 90s and he just lets it compound. So the whole thought process behind this is you're starting at 0. You're not starting at 20 years old or whenever people start Roth IRAs, 40 years old.
Right.
You're starting at 0, and it's teaching people how to be patient. It's teaching people how to be Warren Buffett. Now, some people will turn 18 and they'll cash it out because it hasn't been an educational process, but you can make this an educational process for your kids and teach them, or grandkids, and teach them the value of compounding and the value of patience, because by the time you're already 20, if you start trying to learn patience at 20, you're just like, I want to see money already. If you start at 20 and you're like, look at how this is compounded since I was 0, then you're like, wow, look at what this can do for me over time. And that's, I think, what people are missing here, and why this is such a big deal, is because it can be a training tool for kids, so that when they're 27 years old, what was that number? Even without reinvesting anything else, it's 15,000 bucks.
Right. And you can put more money into it if you want to. If you're the child, once you reach age, once you start having an earned income, or, as a parent or grandparent or whatnot, you can, and friends, there's lots of ways. So hopefully we'll get into that today. Yeah. But, this is all
and
part
again,
of
none of those are guaranteed. Nthat's just
historical returns. And, this is part of the President's Landmark Working Families Tax Cutoff, the big, beautiful bill that came out, last summer from that standpoint. And we haven't heard about it because has been so many things that come out and are talked about. It takes a period of time for them actually to come into play. But yes, it's meant to encourage entrepreneurialism within and investing in America, just like the savings bonds did during the war, World War II. Buy a savings bond, invest in your country, right? Let the country borrow your money so that they can, build the tanks and to win the war. And certainly that's exactly what happened. This kind of same thing, but investing in the country, because you can't invest in internet. This is going to be invested in mutual funds and ETFs. You cannot invest in bonds or bond-like instruments. You cannot invest in international stuff, because it's not going to help the United States. And this is for helping the United States and investing in companies. And as a matter of fact, Michael Dell of Dell Computers and his wife have contributed billions of dollars to be able to add another $250 per child if you live within certain zones, low-income zones within the nation. So it's awesome. It's crazy. Yeah.
Because in those low-income neighborhoods, they don't have any extra money to put in the stock market.
Right. And it's not that low. It's like, it's like where the median income is like $150,000 per household. I mean, that's not that low. And, there's a lot of people that make less than $150,000. But I mean, that's the thing. It's based upon where you live, but it's just an amazing thing that is available to us. And it's a part to be American, and just open an account for the kid. You don't have to put any money in, just open the account for the kid. And
you don't have to pick the investment either. Yeah.
You're being patriotic from that standpoint. I'm getting excited about this stuff. Time for us to take a break, but you listen to Financial Strategies with Andrew and Daniel Agemy. Today's topic is Trump accounts, free money, and fine print. And we have for you, the paper today that we have for you is Social Security benefits, how you can maximize your Social Security benefits and get hundreds of thousands of dollars from the government just by making good choices and decisions when it comes to your Social Security. We love to put that paper in your hand for free by calling us at 800-725-7616. 800-725-7616 for your free copy of Social Security benefits and how to maximize them. 800-725-7616. Call now.
Important financial question. Are you feeling confident that you have enough money saved to enjoy a stress-free retirement?
Honestly, I'm not sure.
That's where Retirement Income Source's investment advisory arm comes in. We exist to help you invest your money smartly.
I'm struggling to accept my retirement without a steady paycheck. So can you help me invest into a profitable revenue plan?
Absolutely. We have top advisors nationwide who have a fiduciary obligation to you. helping you generate retirement income.
This is Financial Strategies with Andrew and Daniel Agemy.
AAA, I was talking to a client just the other day, and she was talking about doing educational segments to help young professionals realize the power of compounding interest. And we were talking about the quote, right, from Albert Einstein that talks about compounding interest is the eighth wonder of the world. Those who understand it earn it, and those who don't understand it pay it. I'm Daniel Agemy.
And I'm Andrew Agemy, and you're listening to Financial Strategies with Andrew and Daniel Agemy. Today's topic is Trump accounts, free money, and fine print. All right. Well, we're coming up, Daniel. That is really something. How money grows and what it does. The time aspect of money, and that's one of the things when I was doing my due diligence on these Trump accounts was one of the concepts is to have time in the market. Now, when we talk to our people in and close to retirement, we talk about how time is behind us. Right. It's not in front of us. But for these kids who are just being born now, and $1,000 can be put into account for those. If you just joined us, government's going to put $1,000 into an account for babies born between January 1st, 2025, and December 31st, 2028. If you open up one of these accounts, and so free money. And the reason is to help them get used to time in the market, that in the market over time, that money will grow and become something else. And Daniel, you had given us some wild numbers for $1,000 can become worth $1,000 can become worth $15,000 according to historical data over a 27-year period when the kid turns 27 years old. And you also talked about, which I thought was very good, Warren Buffett. Gives Warren Buffett the leg up. He's not the best of money managers, as is the time in the market that he has on his side. So that's what we're dealing with here, trying to teach kids how to invest, help them be American-minded, investing in America, kind of like the savings bonds did during World War II, just all these kinds of things, and given the opportunity to have an education in this, right? This country has been a great country, is a great country, still the greatest country on earth. However, you can go through all kinds of schooling, have your doctorate's degree, and never be taught how to balance a checkbook. Now, obviously, that's an old illustration because checkbooks are more a thing of the past than anything else. But the point is, this is to help people to be able to teach their children, their grandchildren more about investing, how to be an entrepreneur, because to take the money out, it can be taken out not just for education, not just for retirement, not just for a first home, but also for starting a business. So a lot of things involved behind opening up one of these accounts and having one of these accounts for a child.
Yeah, AAA. All the details have not been worked out. It seems that's a normal thing these days for the government to pass the law and then figure out all the rules later. But the law has been passed. Some of the finer details are still being ironed out, worked out. There's some conflicting information on what these can be used for, how they can be used, the tax qualifications, and also how they're open. But basically, we know for sure that these things can be opened up by using IRS form 4547 when you file your tax return, and then they can be transferred after the money's in to your typical brokerage accounts like a Schwab or a Fidelity or a Vanguard.
Right.
I'm sure as time goes, they'll figure out ways where you can open them at those custodians and get the money. But right now, the way to do it is open it at the government, and then you can do a transfer. Like you said, AAA, these funds are designed for first-time home purchases, education, starting businesses, and I'm sure more things will come out as time goes on. But basically, you could just take the $1,000 that the Treasury puts in the account that's invested. Again, AAA, we did a show recently that talked about Roth conversions, and we talked about how much do Roth IRAs pay. And what was your answer? How much do Roth IRAs pay?
IRAs don't pay anything. Right.
It's the investments in it. Where this is designed where it's going into U.S. stocks. So you're investing in companies like Tesla, like Palantir, like some of these new companies that are really changing the world through these U.S. stocks.
Right.
So that's one thing that people have missed out with 401ks, and they've changed 401ks recently almost to force people into stocks because people will put it into an IRA, into a 401k, and it's sitting in cash and it's not doing anything, where these are being forced to put it into U.S. stocks. AAA, I think it's funny. We talk about the 401k brain all the time, which is basically you've been trained that volatility is your friend. And volatility can be your friend when you're saving money, but it turns out to be your worst enemy once you're in retirement or you're no longer saving, right?
Right.
And this is going to add another 20 years of 401k brain to people.
Exactly. And but it just goes to show what we're always talking about. There's a time and a place for everything, right? Just like Ecclesiastes says, time and place for everything. And, but you have to have the things lined up properly. So for a newborn baby to have 401k brain, that's fine. But for a 60 or 70-year-old to have 401k brain, that doesn't work the same way. So you listen to Financial Strategies with Andrew and Daniel Agemy. Today's topic is Trump accounts, free money, and the fine print. And today we have a book for you to go along with today's show that we think encourages it and complements it, which is called Smart Retirement. Now, this book is an easy read book by Matt Segula that will help you understand things, how you can save for retirement on a tax-free basis, but it's also can be used for children and for bringing them up and for saving, kind of like this Trump account, but different than the Trump account. Not to be related, but just trying to give you other perspectives that are out there and other strategies. That's why we're called Financial Strategies, to give you other strategies of what you can do for your kids and grandkids or even yourself. You can have that for free by calling us next five first-time callers at 800-725-7616. Ask for it by name, Smart Retirement, 800-725-7616. Next five first-time callers, without obligation, 800-725-7616. Today's topic on Financial Strategies is Trump accounts, free money, and fine print. We've been talking about this, and for children born January 1st of 2025, between then and December 31st, 2028, they can have $1,000 put into an account for them by the U.S. government, and maybe if they qualify, another $250 besides. So $1,250, some kids are going to be having put into these accounts for them, and can grow quite substantially by the time they're 18 or 27 years old if they don't put any more money in it. If they do put more money in, wow, you might say the sky's the limit.
True boy. Who can put money into these accounts? You mentioned the government's going to put $1,000 in. You mentioned earlier that some very wealthy people like Michael Dell, Rick Dalio have set up funds in order to put more money into these accounts. And then there's some other school programs where people could get some more money into these accounts. But who else can put money into the accounts for the kids? And how is it treated, at least tax-wise?
Well, first of all, parents, grandparents, almost anybody can put money into these accounts for the kids. The kids can't put any money in until the kid is earning an income. Then he or she can put money in. Right. Yeah. There's all kinds of ways to get it. Up to $5,000, that's the max, right? You don't have to put anything in a year. But they also are setting up so that parents, through their employer, can do a payroll reduction to put money in that same fashion, kind of like a 401k plan, in that way. No, I think there may be, I think if they do it through their employer, I think there's just so many different intricacies with this, right? I don't have them.
All the details aren't even worked out yet. Yeah.
Right. And I don't have them all, in my head, right? And I have so many papers here to read off of that I can't even find it right at the minute. But the point is that
a
lot of different options.
Deferred, basically, and then it's
definitely
tax deferred. And so we haven't found out the tax qualifications yet for if you use it for education, if they're going to give you a tax break, right? Or if you use it for education, use it for first time home, that's probably going to be taxable. Maybe there'll be a special break for education. Hopefully there's a special break for education.
Well,
we'll see.
Well, one of the things is there's not going to be a penalty because once they turn 18, it's going to basically turn into an IRA for them, is how I read it. And with that, they can take money out for education, first-time home purchase, without a penalty, even though they're below 59 and a half, but they would pay the tax on it, is what one of the things that I read. Again, like I say, how is it going to filter out, right? Especially by the time they're 18 years old.
Yeah, you would expect that. You would expect, since it's growing tax deferred, when the money comes out, you're paying taxes on it. That we know it's working like an IRA. What I was getting at is hopefully there will be some special tax breaks for using it for purposes like education. We will see how that comes out.
Right. There may be more coming down the road. You never know how that's going to be. But you said,
the penalties removed for those. But yeah, worst case, you don't need it for anything, and you let it compound until your retirement age and you get a huge IRA, right? That's the worst case. Best case is it helps you with some of these things like a home purchase, education, some of the things that really get people into trouble, right? AAA. We talked about the Einstein quote and how those who understand compounding earn it and those who don't pay it. And that's what's happened to a lot of young people with student debts and with homes, is they don't understand, especially student debt, the compounding interest, the compounding debt, and they end up paying it for 10 years. I've seen examples of this. They end up paying their student loans for 10 years. They've paid $100,000 and the debt has only reduced by $10,000. And they're sitting there saying, how can I ever get out of this debt? So it's trying to reverse that is the thought process.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Why do people borrow money? Because they didn't save it. And, if you save it, you can be a lot further ahead. And people in this country used to save a lot of money, and people bought houses for cash. Of course, they were worth a lot less, but it's still the, income levels versus cost of houses were similar, and they bought houses with cash, they bought cars with cash, and then it became I don't have the money, but if I can afford the payment, I can afford to buy the thing. And that's where, as Americans and our economy and whatnot, we've gotten into trouble, I think, in a lot of ways. But you're listening to Financial Strategies with Andrew and Daniel Agemy. And today we're talking about Trump accounts and the free money and the fine print. And what we have today is that, many times, many times we're talking, this show is about helping people retire and stay retired. And people often wonder, you grandparents who are listening to this for your grandkids' accounts and that kind of thing, wonder, can I retire? When can I retire? How long can I stay retired? Well, these are all questions that we are able to analyze and be able to give you an answer for after this analysis is done. Love to be able to have a conversation with you to see if you're a candidate for that analysis. Call us for the RRR conversation, our Retirement Risk Report conversation, RRR conversation, for free of charge, no obligation. 800-725-7616 for your free, no obligation RRR conversation. 800-725-7616. Find out if you can retire now or when. Call now.
Time for some tough questions for these financial advisors. What makes Retirement Income Source different from other financial?
Our extensive experience generating investment income quickly so you can have financial peace of mind, navigate your retirement smoothly, and have more time to spend with family and doing the things you love.
We gotta talk to these guys. We're done here.
This is Financial Strategies with Andrew and Daniel Agemy.
Generally speaking, one generation wants the next generation to be better off. And what I say is that, any good father wants his sons and daughters to be better off than they are. I'm Andrew Agemy.
And I'm Daniel Agemy, and you're listening to Financial Strategies. And today we're talking about Trump accounts, who they're for, and if they're worth anything. AAA, what does having the next generation do better than you have to do with Trump accounts?
Well, here's the thing where the president and the U.S. government is kind of doing that same thing, right? They're trying to make this next generation, right, of babies being born, to giving them a leg up, economically speaking, on the future. And I think that's forward thinking for the government to think in that way instead, because what does the government typically do? They typically look backwards and try to fix problems from once they've occurred. Well, here is a thing where they're trying to make things better for the future from a financial perspective, is how I see it, in regard to putting money, $1,000, $1,250 or so, maybe more as time goes on, who knows, into accounts for babies born children born between January 1st, 2025 and December 31st, 2028. So it's a great way to get a leg up financially on the future.
Yeah. Hopefully they're trying to make it better for people. Another way to look at it would be they just know that they're going to have a lot of funding problems in the future. And so if they start putting money into the stock market now, the U.S. government isn't really allowed to invest in the stock market. So here's a way they can give $1,000 to babies. And then in 20 years, they get half the money when the babies take the money out, when they're adults they take the money out. So who knows? But no matter what the intentions are of the government, we want people to understand how to use these things to their advantage, because that's who we care about. We care about the individuals. We care about the clients that we're working with. And we actually generally care about the next generation and what their lives are going to look like, because they're coming into a lot of problems as far as underfunded government, underfunded Social Security, expensive houses, all these things. And so here is a way where maybe they can get a little bit of a leg up.
Intentional, Daniel. Intentional. The government and President Trump is being intentional toward trying to make things better in the future. Whether or not it does, time will tell. Right. Yeah. But at least, there's an intention. They're being intentional toward that. And when it comes to parenting, you need to be intentional in your parenting, because kids don't just get raised by themselves. Sure, they can raise themselves, but they'll go through a lot of difficulties and cause a lot of difficulties for people while they do that. But if they have parents that will raise them, it works out a whole lot better. And because they're intentional. So intentionality goes a long way.
And we haven't talked about that, AAA. And not all parents or grandparents know how to do this. But then if you don't, there's plenty of tools out there where you can figure it out. But this should be an intentional thing, not just putting $1,000 into a fund, and then when the kid's 20 years old, 18 years old, there's $15,000 in there. But actually put some money in with them. Let them pick some different U.S. ETFs. Let them pick some things and see how it goes. Use it as an educational process. Even if it's putting $100 a year in it, put some money in it and let them pick some investments and put it in on top of the $1,000. That's my suggestion, because way more important than the money is the strategies behind and the tools behind, the thought process behind investing. And if you can teach your kids that, they'll be way further ahead than just having $1,000 compound over 20 years.
Well, it's the aspect of teaching somebody how to fish and giving them a fish, right? You heard that story. You teach somebody how to fish. You give them a fish, they'll eat for one day. You teach them how to fish, and they'll eat the rest of their life, right? Same kind of thing. You teach them how to do it, and they'll always be taken care. And that's one of the things behind this is that it has, as far as we know, what's called the no touch rule, that they cannot touch the money until they're 18. Without a 10% early withdrawal penalty. And it could potentially be more severe than that. But the point, you're right, exactly.
That's the whole point about the patience. That's why Warren Buffett did so well. And so some people, Warren Buffett, some people might say he's a miser. He's got over $100 billion and he's not doing anything with it. He has the patience not to do that. Most people are not that way. If they had anywhere close to $100 billion, they'd be spending it like crazy. If they had close to $100,000, they'd be spending it like crazy. And so it's good to, that's why 401ks are locked up. It's good to have locked up money so that we don't end up touching it, because when we touch it, it can't compound. AAA.
Exactly. And and you're listening to Financial Strategies with Andrew and Daniel Agemy. Today's topic is Trump accounts, free money, and the fine print. And today, as we try to help people know what they don't know, we have a paper that goes along with today's shows called Understanding Required Minimum Distributions. And you might say, well, why? How does Understanding Required Minimum Distribution go along with Trump accounts and so forth? Required minimum distributions deal with how much money the minimum amount you have to take out of your account at different ages. And, it starts around 4%, and the percentage increases as you get older. Ideally, right, they're using that money to fund these Trump accounts. But the point is that how you use your money in retirement is going to make a big difference for you and for your grandchildren, right? You'll have money to be able to add to their minimum accounts, to these Trump accounts for your grandchildren if you handle your required minimum distributions and allocations properly. So we love to put this in your hand for free by calling us at 800-725-7616, 800-725-7616. Understanding required minimum distributions. Ask for it by name, RMD, required minimum distributions. Call now. Daniel, when we're talking about Trump accounts, free money, and the fine print, one of the things I'm thinking about is the aspect of the old analogy of if I have two cans and I put $1,000 into each of the two cans, the difference between the two cans is one of them has no lid on it. The other one has a special lid that you can only put money in. You can put the $1,000 in and you can't touch it again, at least for 18 years. Which one at the end of 18 years is going to have more money in it?
Almost certainly the one with the lid.
The one with the lid. Exactly. And that's what a lot these accounts are, to where they can have more money. That's what you've been talking about in regard to like Warren Buffett and such as well, and time in the market that will really add up for these kids.
Yeah. And then if you put even $100 a month, $100 a year, if you put a little bit more in, the numbers just get insane. Because if you just add a little bit to that, the compounding really works, especially with stock markets, because contrary to popular opinion, they don't just go up. And so as there's volatility in the market, that $1,000 is going up and down, up and down, up and down. If you're throwing like even $100 a month into the account, then what ends up happening is you're buying low when markets are crashing, and it compounds even faster. So AAA, when and how do kids fund these accounts and use these accounts? We've covered some of this stuff already, but let's go over some of these rules real quick here so that people can have a better idea of when and how these funds these accounts are funded and used.
Okay. All right. Well,
you covered no withdrawals before 18. I think we beat that one to death. That's really good. No withdrawals before 18. They can be transferred. You can move them from custodian to custodian, and there will be different fund options depending on who's holding it. Vanguard, Schwab, Fidelity, the U.S. government, AAA.
Right. But there are legal, there's laws regarding how that money can be invested, right? And, because it has to be invested in U.S. companies, mutual funds, ETFs, and U.S. companies. So that is real key, but that is something that shouldn't be an issue. The people, the investment company handling it should be able to educate people on that aspect. Yes.
We'll see what those guardrails are, but just please don't put it in if it's allowed, don't put it in a target date fund, people. Don't put it in a target date fund, please. I had somebody ask me about the other day. They were like, I just want something easy. Can I put it in a target date fund? And I was like, if you want something easy, put it in the World Fund. The Vanguard World Fund. Invest in every stock market. And then if you're worried about the U.S. not performing over the next 10 years, at least you're in that. Don't put it in a target date fund, please.
Right, exactly. Easy costs money. And sure, I got, like BlackRock are one of the people, Daniel, sponsoring this thing and helping with this, right? So I got to believe they're going to want
They'll probably have a Trump fund investment, right? They'll probably have an ETF just for the Trump
Right.
account.
And so there's going to be extra expenses on that, which are going to affect returns, right? They're going to make some good money on it, but it's going to be easy. You pay for easy. You don't necessarily have to pay for easy. I mean, you can do other things. Like you said, just put it in that one fund, right? And let it go.
An S&P
right?
fund. There you go.
And that's the idea here.
So what happens at age 18? It looks like at age 18, the child becomes the owner of the account. And that's where you parents, or grandparents need to be educating that 0 to 18-year-old on how it works,
right.
Because we've seen so many examples of when a kid changes the account from the custodian account, when the parents or the grandparents control it, to the child. They don't know anything about it. They see it as free money. We're talking about free money here. It's free money.
Right.
They've got this money. They cash it out. They go shopping at the mall. And that was all the savings. That was the 20 years of hard work compounding.
Right.
And it was a nice day to the mall, right?
Right. That happens all the time, whether it's this kind of thing or it's inheritances. I see that with inheritances. People spending inheritances within a year or two, and those are the statistics. But this is the thing. And who can put money into this account? Well, once the child himself is earning money, they can put money in. Parents can put in, friends can put into this, employers can put into this for their employees' children. Parents can potentially put in through a payroll reduction program with their paycheck. So the nonprofit organizations can put in, governments can put in if they want. So it's really open to a lot of people, which you cannot open up an IRA for a kid today without all kinds of guardrails, all kinds of different things going on that are, if you could even do it, some places won't allow it. But this is going to add a lot of flexibility. Who can put money in and how much they can put in. I mean, we don't know what the minimum deposit is. We know you don't have to put anything in, but if you want to put $10 a month or something, we don't know if that's going to be the case. That's probably going to be open to the investment company that actually holds the money. But
that's the big key.
Flexibility.
That's the big key. That's what makes this so much different than an IRA, is that the child does not have to have earned income. Almost anybody, even the employer, can put money into the account.
Right.
Even the parent employer can put money into the account for the child. And that's the big deal, because it's like they say it takes a village. Well, here the village can all put money into the account for this person, which is a really cool thing.
Exactly. You're listening to Financial Strategies with Andrew and Daniel Agemy. Today's topic is Trump accounts, free money, and fine print. We have something to give you today to help you know what you don't know. And it's called the Tax Saving Strategies Checklist. How does this go on along with today's show, Andrew? Well, this is all about not just saving for the kids, saving money and investing, learning how to invest, but there's also a tax saving aspect. There's no taxes being paid on this until the money is being taken out on the kids' account. But with you have a tax time bomb, particularly, and especially if you have 401k or IRA money. And we want to make sure that you know how to and that you're able to pay as little tax as legally possible. And this tax saving strategies checklist is for you. Retirement planning, Social Security, required minimum distributions, tax efficient investing, Medicare and IRMA surcharges, legacy and gifting, tax loss harvesting and asset location, all within this checklist. You can have it for free by calling us at 800-725-7616, 800-725-7616 for your free copy of Tax Saving Strategies Checklist. Call and ask for a brand name, ask for the checklist, 800-725-7616. Call now.
Do you have any questions for me about retirement income source?
I just want to make sure I can invest well enough to have enough income, enjoy my retirement.
We build a custom retirement plan based around your income and goals.
How do I know I can trust you?
Building trust does take time, but our investment advisory arm is comprised of fiduciaries, which means our obligation is to you. So you can enjoy your retirement with a little more income stability.
I'm in.
That's 2 out of 3.
You're locked on to Financial Strategy with Andrew and Daniel Agemy.
Okay, we're trying to do a special segment here where we have some listeners' questions that want to know a little bit more about these Trump accounts. And AAA, I'm going to ask you some of our listeners' questions on these Trump accounts, and hopefully we'll get some good information out there to our listening audience. So the first question I have is, should I open Trump accounts for my grandchildren?
Good. That's a good one. That's a good one. In my mind, the first part is it's kind of a no-brainer. If your grandchildren are born between January 1st, 2025 and December 31st, 2028, it's a no-brainer. Now, how is it going to specifically work as far as will you be able to actually open up these accounts, or do the parents have to open up the accounts? I'm not sure how that's going to work. We're going to know July 4th of 2026 is when they're going to become available, and they're going to be funded, from what I read, July 5th of 2026. Okay. So we're going to know a lot more about these things at that point, but a no-brainer to open these accounts for babies, because it's $1,000 of free seed money. And that's if they don't qualify for the extra $250 per child. And so it's a great thing to get going on this. The purpose of it is to help them start investing, learning about investing. It's an opportunity for you to teach them about investing. It's a great grandchild, shall I say. You could think of it as a game or function that you have together, activity together, to be able to work on that, and can be used to head them toward school, college, whatever case may be, buying a home, buying opening or buying a business, or their own retirement. I remember being, I think, 5 years old, and my cousin and I were at my uncle in the grocery store, and we were, I think, working at the grocery store that day, and I think we made $0.25 each. And my cousin said, I was looking to buy some candy or some soda or something, and he said, I'm going to put this in my college fund. And and I said, college fund. I said, what is a college fund? I furthest thing from my mind at 5 years old back then. Right. But nevertheless, for these kids, they're not going to be thinking about that. That's where they need intentional parents and grandparents to help them be thinking ahead. His parents were intentional about getting him thinking and talking college at 5 years old. Yeah. And that, it's just
kids,
great.
Kids are smart. Kids are so smart. And so if you teach them this stuff, think about the compounding, not only of the money, but the compounding. If you start teaching them at 5 how these things work,
right,
the compounding into their future of the building upon what you taught them about investing and how that will compound as well.
I know a certain little boy that did an entrepreneurial thing at school and sold hot chocolate at school and I think he made like $40 or something on this thing, so to like a 6-year-old boy, $40 is a lot of dough. And if that went into an account like this over the next 15, 20 years, that could turn into a big deal from that standpoint. Should you open one for your grandkids? Well, if you can't, see that one gets opened, and even if you seed it yourself with a little bit of money, consider that.
AAA, our next question is, any of this guaranteed? Are the Trump accounts guaranteed?
No, none of this is guaranteed. There's no guarantees with this stuff. There's, it's speculation in the stock market, like we talked about. What I mean by that is you just depend upon what the stock market does. Like we talked about earlier, is that the Social Security is very much like a pension, and this is more like a 401k. So just like 401ks are not same thing, these are not. But, the balances depend upon market performance, how you're invested. You gave an example earlier when one person is, if they don't invest any money and the person is 27 years old, what was the number? $51,000 by the time they're 27, or was it $15,000 by the time they're 27?
If they don't add anything.
If they don't add anything.
At 27. And if they add a little bit, it's 51.
Right.
We talked about that huge number where if they max it out, when the retirement age, they got $13 million in there, but none of that is guaranteed.
Right, but let's just say that $1,000 goes in from the government and not another penny is put in. At 27, historically speaking, it should be worth in the vicinity of $15,000. Well, depending how they invest, they could actually be over $20,000, or it could be $3,000, depending how they invest, right? It all depends, but that's part of the learning process. And in this case, it's free money. You're not using your money. Anything, you come out with anything at the end, and it's more than what you started with. So that's why I say, from my mind, it's like a no-brainer.
AAA, our next question is, should my own retirement money be invested the same way? This sounds real good. So should I invest my own retirement savings the same way?
Well, that's a wonderful question. I'm glad to have the opportunity to ask, because if you're in or close to retirement, 5 years, 10 years before retirement, or in retirement, the answer is equivocally no. Don't. Your money should not be invested this way. Dan, you talked about earlier the 401k brain, which is a growth mindset. And a growth mindset is great if you're young, but it takes time in the market. And for most of us in and close to retirement or in retirement, time is behind us. It's not in front of us. And so we have to invest in different things, allocate our money to things that are going to be able to pay us no matter what happens. Because when a day goes by, a day goes by. And if we don't get paid with our investments, since we're not working anymore, that would be an egregious thing. So we want to make sure that our investments are paying us. We're getting a paycheck from our investments, even though we're not going to work. And so if you have a 40% drop, if the government puts $1,000 into account for your grandchild, and there's a 40% drop in his investment or the stock market, that's only $400 that he or she is losing. If you have $1 million in your retirement and you invest that same way and it drops 40%, you've lost $400,000. And for that money to come back, how long is it going to be? I mean, last time that happened in 2009, it took at least 5 years for it to get back to what it was. And do you want to put your retirement on hold for a 5-year period of time like people did in 2009? Or would you rather enjoy retirement even when others aren't? So that's an easy one. Did I miss things with that, Daniel?
No, AAA. I think that makes sense. I think especially we talk all the time about the different ways of investing, right? And there is a certain growth and there is uncertain growth. And this is a way to invest for a long period of time. If you're a baby and you're not even allowed to touch that money until you're 59 and a half, which is basically, unless you're using this for some of those other purposes, education, starting a business, things like that, then you're not touching it for 60 years. You can ride out some serious market volatility. If you're retiring in 5 years or 10 years, it's a whole different strategy on how you want to invest the money. You're not looking out 60 years. You're looking at taking money out of your account in 5 to 10 years. And if you have a market pullback, just as you said, AAA, not only the psychology, but the way money works. So small money, volatility, you're not worried. You're not worried if your $1,000 cuts in half. But I could promise you, if your $1 million cuts in half, you're going to be freaking out, because we see it all the time. We've seen people's accounts come down 20, 25, 30%, and they thought that was going to be okay. And they're freaking out trying to figure out what can be done to stop that volatility. And so planning ahead is very important. And knowing the stage of life you're at, just like kids take on a lot of risk. They jump off the jungle gyms, they go skateboarding, they do all these kinds of things. That's not dangerous or excessive or freaky to them at all. Once you're in your 60s, there's not a lot of skateboarders. There's not a lot of people jumping off the jungle gyms. There's not a lot of people wanting to climb up on the roof and jump into a pile of leaves or snows in their 60s. The investment monies shouldn't be like that either.
Exactly. You've got that exactly right. And, even though there's different ways that you invest at different times in your life for different things, just like you go to different doctors. A child goes to a pediatrician and an adult goes to an adult doctor, right? Or a general practitioner. Same thing with investments. They have to be done differently. So steady Eddie escalator approach is what we like for people in and close to retirement, as opposed to the elevator approach that can go up and down and who knows what direction with that. This is good. This is good. And so there's an allocation of different kinds of investments for full diversification that we're usually talking about on the show that can be able to help you with that. A lot of people wonder, can I retire? When can I retire? How can I retire? What do I need to retire on? How much do I need? And we have a report called the Retirement Risk Report that will tell you what the risk of you retiring would be if the market had another 2008 or if we had a run up. How much you need in retirement, when you can retire. We can answer all these questions, and it usually starts with the conversation, what I call RR conversation, retirement risk or retirement readiness report conversation, to see if you are a candidate for that analysis. When can I retire? If you want to know when you can retire, call us, and we're glad to have a brief conversation with you to see if you're a candidate to move forward and look closer at that for you. 800-725-7616, 800-725-7616 for your conversation, because people don't know what people don't know. And if you want your retirement to be stress-free, invest more for the I rather than the G, and don't forget the T, the taxable portion. Until next week, peace. May God continue to be with you.